feel very called to become a member of the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
As I've said before, Mondays get a bad rap. I don't think that Mondays are as bad as people make them out to be, quite frankly. But, of course, I get to come in here and look at the lovely and talented Elena Rodriguez and sit next to scriptural apologist extraordinaire John Martignoni. And it gives me an hour from not having to sit next to our call screener, Matt Kubensky. So that's win-win-win in my book.
I tell you, all the way around. All the way around.
Welcome.
Although I would love to get every now and then the lovely and talented John Martignoni. But
well, you just be patient.
Is that am I right? Yeah. Elena's saying I'm right. Okay.
Welcome to Open Line Monday. John Martignoni, as you've heard, is in the house, our scriptural apologist extraordinaire. If you've got a question for John, the number's 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, we'd love to hear from you, maybe from Poland or Italy, the lands of John's heritage.
That is
maybe
correct.
You've got a question. Your number is 1-205-271-2985. That's 1-205-271-2985. Or you can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com. I'm Jack Williams. As I mentioned, the lovely and talented Elena Rodriguez is producing the program. Your call screener is Mr. Matt Kubensky, and our host is Mr. John Martignoni, as he is every Monday. And we've got an email from Stephen, who says, I left the church years ago after Vatican II when the Mass seemingly turned into a display of whatever some priest decided the way it was going to be said. For instance, clown masses, cookie masses, etc. I recently returned to the church when I discovered the Latin Mass is once again being allowed. Where I go to Mass, the Latin Mass is only said on Sunday, so on holy days of obligation and First Fridays and Saturdays, I have to attend a weirdo Mass where I witness people desecrating the Eucharist by taking it in their hands. Why do the bishops allow this continuing abuse of our Lord? And that's Stephen.
Well, Stephen, the bishops allow it because the church allows it. And as long as the church allows it, and if you are truly Catholic and you understand the authority, that where it comes from and how it's how it operates within the church, then even though I'm like you, I prefer to receive on the tongue. I believe personally it is more respectful towards the Lord, but the church says that people may receive in the hand, so it's not up to you, it's not up to me or anyone else to say they can't. And again, you may hold the opinion that it is disrespecting the Lord, desecrating the Eucharist, as you put it. However, final say goes to the church, because the Mass is not yours, it's not mine, it's the church's. And the church is the authority behind the Mass, the authority by which the Mass is held in every state, in every country all around the world, every day of the year. So you just have to trust God that He knows what He's doing, and that even if, again, you believe it's disrespecting the Eucharist, desecrating the Eucharist, you just got to say, God, your church allows this, and I'm obedient and faithful to you and to the authority that you have left in your church. And I will simply pray that there come a day where you have your church not allow receiving communion in the hand, and go from there.
You know, Rosalind Moss, formerly Rosalind Moss, now Mother Miriam, once told me when I posed a similar question to her that whenever she finds herself in a situation where something that she deems to be liturgically abuseful is going on, that at that moment she will take a deep breath, calm herself, and realize that the Lord is truly and substantially present, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Blessed Eucharist, and that she is not worthy to receive Him. And I've taken that advice on several occasions, and that usually will calm down any of those.
Well, that's the thing. Unless the priest has changed the words of consecration or some other major aberration such as that, you are still receiving Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. So be happy, be glad, be joyful, and then when you leave the Mass, make your case with the priest or with the bishop. And because the priest in his parish can say, no, we're just going to do it this way, or the bishop in his diocese can say, no, we're just going to do it this way. So you make your case respectfully and logically and calmly, and who knows what could happen.
Janie writes in, my daughter, sadly, is very active in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. She mentioned about Mormons baptizing without permission anyone who uses their geological site. I stated it didn't matter since once baptized, always baptized. You can only remove original sin once. She says that's not biblical and wouldn't discuss it. What do they believe about baptism?
Okay, Seventh-day Adventist Church, what do they believe about baptism? I would think, I'm trying to remember, because I've dealt with so many different people from so many different denominations. I have dealt with Seventh-day Adventists before. I don't know if we've ever gotten into the particulars about baptism, but I would assume that being a Protestant church, that they believe that baptism is only symbolic, that it doesn't wash away sin or anything of that nature. And so, and I think that's what she would have been referring to. Your email here is a little nebulous as to what in particular is not biblical. And if she was talking about only having to baptize once not being biblical, well, then you can send her to Ephesians chapter 4, and it's verse, hang on with me 1 second, it's right here. Yeah, verse 4 and 5 from Ephesians chapter 4. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to the one hope that belongs to your call. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, and in verse 6, one God and Father of us all, who is above all and through all and in all. There is one baptism. That means one baptism for all people. And you receive that one baptism one time. Nowhere in the Bible do we see anything about people being baptized multiple times. Why? Because in Scripture, you have, for example, in Acts chapter 2, people entering into the church. How? Through baptism. How many times were they baptized into the church? Once. Once you're in the church, once you're Christian, that's it. You've been baptized. Now, you can remove yourself from the grace of God through mortal sin, but you don't have to be rebaptized upon your forgiveness, assuming you go to confession and receive forgiveness. So only once. Nowhere does it say, well, I was baptized 10 years ago, but hey, Peter or Paul or whoever, why don't you go ahead and baptize me again just to make sure it sticks or to help me out? No, one baptism. And another thing is, baptism is like, is the New Testament equivalent, or let me rephrase this. Circumcision was the Old Testament equivalent to baptism. And how many times could you get circumcised? Once. More than once, it would be a little difficult. But so one time you enter into covenant with God, and that covenant is good, for the rest of your life. So, again, unless you fall into mortal sin, but you are still essentially you've had your original sin washed away. How many times can you wash away the stain of original sin? Once. You don't need to wash it away twice because it's gone. You've washed away the stain of original sin. So one baptism, it's there again in Ephesians 4, and just tell her, say, here it is in the Bible. And if you need more about baptism from the Bible and how it really is in the Bible, you can go to my website, BibleChristianSociety.com, BibleChristianSociety.com, And I've got a free CD there. It's a free CD or free MP3 download called The Sacraments in the Bible. And I go through baptism, confession, and the Eucharist, and I just show you straight from the Bible what it says about these three sacraments.
Just getting started on an open line Monday. 1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. 1-800-585-9396. Open line Monday rolls on with scriptural apologist John Martignoni.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck, the host of EWTN's Bookmark, and I wanted to tell you about a new book, Praying with Mother Angelica, Meditations on the Rosary, the Way of the Cross, and Other Prayers. It's a new book that's out from Mother Angelica, and with me is Father Joseph Mary Wolf, our chaplain here. And Father Joseph, you knew Mother for many, many years, worked very closely with her, and you could appreciate this book and recommend it. What are some of the highlights, maybe a prayer you'd like to read?
You know, I like it that it has her meditations on the mysteries of the Rosary, including the luminous mysteries, which were taken from her programs later, but also her meditations on the Stations of the Cross. And one of my favorite parts is her conversation with God. So it's like entering into her prayer. Mm-hmm. So here's one where Mother speaks about time, and it's more like a prayer. Life is so short, my Lord. I look at all my yesterdays and they seem so hazy, while all my tomorrows are uncertain. The only time I really possess is this tiny moment, and it passes so quickly. It is a most precious gift in your hands, and I should look at it as I would a treasure.
Exactly, and as Mother always said about living in the present moment, and now is the moment for you to check out Mother's new book, Praying with Mother Angelica, Meditations on the Rosary, the Way of the Cross, and Other Prayers. You won't be sorry. It's a wonderful new book available right now. Order it today.
To get your copy of Praying with Mother Angelica, log on to our web store, EWTNRC.com, and type in item 80008, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Podcasts of Open Line are available within 24 hours of live broadcast. Go to EWTN.com and click on Multimedia.
This is Doug Keck, EWTN President and Chief Operating Officer.
This is Archbishop Paul Coakley of Oklahoma City.
This is Patrick Coffin, host of Catholic Answers Live. Thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
EWTN programming is heard on great stations around the country like 95.7 FM in Shelby, Montana, 88.1 FM in Elmira and Corning, New York, and 106.1 FM in Maryville, Missouri. To the phones we go. Our leadoff hitter today is Alex in the great state of Kansas. Alex, what's your question today for John Martignoni?
Hey, I have a question about the brown scapular.
Okay.
I've been wearing one since my first communion, which is about 12 years ago. And I know the lady's scapular promise, but I was just kind of wondering just how far does that go? I mean, am I actually saved from the fires of hell like it says?
Well, okay. The scapular promises are good, but you cannot be presumptive in the matter. For example, you can't say, okay, I've got this, I've been wearing this scapular, and one of the promises, I'll have the grace of salvation or whatever, however exactly it's worded, at the moment of my death and all this. So I can go out and do whatever the heck I want to do. And I'm good to go because I'm wearing the scapular. No, doesn't work that way. The promises are that the scapular, in essence, is a reminder for you to continually bring your thoughts and your actions back to the thoughts and the actions that God would will you to do. In other words, you're continually trying to seek. This should be a reminder that, hey, I am God's, and He possesses me. I want to give my all to God. And as long as you have the scapular doing that in your life, reminding you of these things. So every time you think about your scapular, you feel it, maybe rub across your breastbone or something, or you have to adjust it because it's slid down this side or that side, or whatever. You should, maybe say a little prayer. Mary, thank you for your son. Jesus, thank you for dying for me on the cross. Something like that. So if you are, doing that, then basically what Mary is saying, the graces that you need for salvation will be there for you. It's not a promise that, hey, put this on and boom, you're done. You don't have to worry about anything. You go out and do whatever the heck you want and we're good to go. Not that at all. It's not something that allows a person wearing it to be presumptuous of salvation. It's something that's designed to make them grow in their faith, grow in grace, and grow closer to God, and hopefully realize more and more the will of God for their lives, and that through the sacraments, particularly the Eucharist and confession, and through prayer and so forth, that they will grow in grace and grow closer and closer to God's will for their lives. Does that make sense?
That does. It makes a lot of things.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate the phone call. 1-800-585-9396. One line open right now at 1-800-585-9396. Next up is Jose in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, listening online. Jose, you're on with John Martignoni.
Hey, John. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, John, every night we read Scripture with my kids. They're teenagers, and afterwards we pray. And about a week ago, I stumbled upon Luke 11:24, and I couldn't come up with an explanation for them when it talks about when an unclean spirit has gone out of the man, he passes through waterless places seeking rest, and then finding none, he returns and finds the place worse than it was before. I don't know. Maybe you can give me a hand this, because I left my kids without an explanation.
Okay. This is something that many of the church fathers, I guess St. Cyril, St. John Chrysostom, St. Ambrose, maybe St. Augustine too, not sure. But they look at this as, first and foremost, speaking of the state of Israel, the nation of Israel, that when they were in Egypt, they had an unclean spirit in them, okay? Then they passed through the waters of the Red Sea, which Paul tells us was a type of baptism. Typologically speaking, it was a baptism through the Red Sea. The water, they were saved through water and by the Spirit, which the the Spirit leading them in a cloud of fire and smoke. So they were cleansed. The spirit was cast out in essence. Then they get to Israel, and what do? Eventually they start worshiping false gods and so forth, which means they had the one spirit, it got cast out, and then they get to another place, and their house is in order and everything's going fine, but then they end up rejecting the Son of God. And things are even worse now, because not only were you worshiping false gods then, but now you're rejecting God himself in the form of the Messiah. And so worse things are going to happen. And worse things did happen. The Jews eventually, the Romans came and destroyed the temple and Jerusalem, and the Jews were scattered to the four corners and so forth. So that's one thing. The other thing is, it's for each of us Christians that we think, okay, we've got a particular vice, a particular demon that we deal with, and we've worked on it, and we've cast out this demon. Okay, so we think, all right, everything's great, I'm good to go, but it's, the Word of God hasn't taken deep root in my heart or my soul. Yeah, I got rid of that one vice. I recognize that was wrong. And now I'm thinking, it's great. I'm good. I don't need anything else. Don't really need, church on Sunday. Not necessarily. Going to receiving the Eucharist, going to confess. Don't need all that stuff. I'm good to go. Well, now, even though it looks like, hey, you've gotten things in order inside of you, you've gotten rid of this one demon, this one vice. Well, now, because you're relying on your own power, you're not turning to God, the Son of God, not trying to grow in Him, grow in faith, grow in grace. Well, that demon's going to wander around for a while, and by golly, you're going to end up with 7 more demons, 7 more vices, many of which will be worse than the first. Is that something you think you can tell your kids?
Crystal clear, John. Thanks a lot, eh?
Very good.
Thank you, Jose. Appreciate the phone call. 1-800-585-9396. That's the number Harry used in Farmers Branch, Texas. He's listening on Guadalupe Radio, AM 910. Harry, what's your question today for John?
Yes, sir. The Mass changed over with Pope Benedict XVI, and it's a beautiful Mass. I'm all about the Mass. There's nothing about it that is wrong with me, so don't get me wrong when I ask this question. But one of my favorite lines, very, very beautiful line that I've always loved about the Mass, and Pope Benedict XVI has omitted, was during communion when the priest says, "May the body and blood of Christ bring us to everlasting life." My question is there a reason why that was omitted from the Mass?
I don't think it was ever in the sacramentary. Some priests had a habit of saying that.
Yeah, and some would say it out loud, and some would say it privately, but I'm not sure that it was liturgically an official liturgical prayer. I tell you what I'm going to do, what I often do when it comes to liturgical questions, is if you have the opportunity, Harry, to call back on Friday. Is Colin in this Friday?
No. Theology Roundtable Friday.
Okay. Call in the following Friday. Or call Wednesday.
No. It'll be a taped mailbag show the following Friday because we have our employee Lenten retreat.
I tell you guys are giving Colin too much time off. All right.
But you know what, Harry?
Wednesday.
I tell you what, you know what, Harry? If you can tune in tomorrow, I will research this tonight, and I'll start the show off with Barbara McGuigan tomorrow with an answer to this question.
Okay. Or if that fails, if you're not able to, if you can call in on a Wednesday as well with Father Mitch, I'm sure he would be able to answer this question as well. Okay?
Okay. That'd be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Harry. Appreciate the phone call. 1-800-585-9396. Jim is in Cincinnati, Ohio, listening on Sacred Heart Radio, AM 740. Jim, what's your question today for John?
Hello, John. This is a question that I think needs to get out there again on the airwaves, and I just don't feel that it's been really seriously taken by our bishops in the United States. It's the question of female servers. And in particular, you got a lot of young girls serving Mass, which, no offense, they're great at doing that and things like that. But it just seems like we got to adapt everything in the United States, everything that males do, the females have to do as well. We have to be inclusive, even if it isn't spiritually the right thing to do. And I think, what is your feeling on this? What are your thoughts? I asked 2 prominent priests that I know you would know if I gave you the names, which I won't do, and I was disappointed with their answers. I thought they were weak. All these other areas are strong, but I felt they were weak, and I feel it's damaging ultimately to the priesthood. And I don't see young males serving as much as it did. And I was an altar boy, and I'm a married man, and I've explained to my wife, and she seems to understand, but there's that side of her too that it feels that you have to be inclusive. And anyway, I wish you, if you could, I wish you would really elaborate on this, because I think really the Holy Spirit is basically saying this needs to be talked about.
Great question, Jim. Hang on the line. John's got a lot to say about this topic, I know, and we've got plenty of time for your phone calls as well. 1-800-585-9396, toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. We'd love to hear from you if you're outside the United States and Canada. Your number is 1-205-271-2985, or we'll take your emails at openline@EWTN.com. Open Line Monday with our scriptural apologist extraordinaire, John Martignoni.
Matt Swaim here, inviting you to start your day a better way with the Sunrise Morning Show, weekday mornings here on EWTN. It's a fast-paced program where we cover apologetics, scriptures, and the saint of the day, plus news, sports, entertainment, and family life, all from a Catholic perspective. So join us weekday mornings here on EWTN.
The Sunrise Morning Show. Better way to start your day.
From the archives, this is the wisdom of Mother Angelica.
Do not let your heart be troubled. Is your heart troubled? Well, what about? Well, I have my children are not in the church. We've had tragedy after tragedy in our family. This one is a born loser, never been successful in his life. This one has terrible pain. All that. So who knows Jesus? And yet our dear Lord looks at us with great love as only a friend can, a real friend, and say, don't let your hearts be troubled. And I want you to think of that. He's saying, don't let it. Now, that means you can do something about it, doesn't it, huh? He doesn't say, I'm going to help you not to let your hearts be troubled. No, he said, you don't let it trouble you.
For more about Mother Angelica, visit EWTNRC.com.
If you're currently an EWTN media missionary or just interested in becoming one, we've got some great news. EWTN Media Missionaries has a new and improved website, EWTNmissionaries.com, designed with you in mind. Our new site is loaded with great features and it's easy to navigate. There are so many different ways that you can help EWTN. Join us in sharing the eternal word with the world. Visit EWTNmissionaries.com today.
Thank you for listening to EWTN Radio.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@EWTN.com.
A star-studded journey home tonight, and he only has one guest, as he does every week. But it is Jerusalem Jones himself, Mr. Steve Ray, former Baptist and now Catholic extraordinaire, will be Marcus's guest on the journey home tonight. That's at 8 Eastern on EWTN television, and the miracles of Jesus will be what Mother Angelica is talking about tomorrow night on Mother Angelica Live Classics. That's also 8 Eastern on EWTN television. We're talking to Jim in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Jim John is asking about females serving at the altar.
Yes, and Jim, in many respects, I would agree with you. For a few different reasons, or at least a couple of different reasons. Number one, female altar servers were not allowed officially until I believe the 1990s, somewhere in there, when the Vatican allowed female altar servers, and I don't know if that was worldwide or just here in the United States and North America maybe. But either way, it was, to me, rewarding, in essence, disobedience. Because many of the bishops, many priests in their particular parishes, many bishops in their dioceses had already allowed female altar servers, even though, hey, it wasn't allowed. So by saying, yeah, okay, you're all doing it anyway, so let's go ahead and make it official that it's okay. Well, you've rewarded disobedience. And if you reward one disobedience in one area, Well, by golly, guess what? You're going to get disobedience in a whole bunch of other areas. And people say, hey, everybody's doing this, so why not allow it? Everybody's doing that, so why not allow it? Everybody's using contraception, so why not allow it? So to me, that's a bad precedent to set. Number two, no one, who's not a particular minister for the altar has the right to be an altar server, male or female. So you can't say, well, the guys are doing it, so the women have a right to do that. Well, no, they don't. And I have one of the things that, why I'm against is I've read articles I've seen in my own parishes I've been in where you have female altar servers. You quite often have a tough time getting male altar servers. And altar service at the altar for the young man, quite often is something that can plant a seed for a vocation to the priesthood later on in life. And you can't do that with female altar servers. You cannot plant any seeds of the priesthood later on in life for the young ladies. So that's something. And often young men, particularly young men in their 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, early teens, do not like to serve at the altar if there are girls there. It's just, the younger kids, they're not really into girls that much, or they'll do it with other guys, but, they'll feel embarrassed. Well, what if I make a mistake and the girls are there and that, so it tends to work against getting male altar servers. So, so for those reasons, and there are other reasons that I personally am not in favor of it. However, the church allows it. So I can't sit here and say, oh, you can't do that, or it's wrong, or anything like that, because the church allows it. The church has the authority. As I was saying with a previous caller, the church, the Mass belongs to the body of Christ, to the church. It is the church's authority behind the Mass, through the Mass, in the Mass. And so, since the church allows it for now, we have to say, okay, it's allowed. However, there is no priest and no bishop who is commanded to have altar servers. So there are parishes that I know of in this diocese, and I know of in other dioceses, where the priest says, no, we're not going to have female altar servers. I don't know if there are bishops. I think there may be some bishops, not many, who have disallowed female altar servers in their entire diocese, because again, it's something that you can do, but you don't have to do. And so I would say at your parish, I'd do some research online, and particularly taking the tack of female altar servers. The presence of female altar servers can have a detrimental effect on getting male altar servers, which again has detrimental effect on planting seeds for potential vocations to the priesthood among those young men. And make the argument to your pastor and say, hey, have you ever thought about this? And maybe we should try to move in this direction and go from there. Okay?
Okay, John. And do you think Pope Francis will ever bring this issue up again? And I know Pope John Paul II did give the okay, as you said, kind of a bad teaching. But do you think he'll ever address this, or do you
I doubt that you would have Pope Francis do that. I mean, I could always be proven wrong. I was proven wrong once about 5 years ago.
Well, that's when you thought you were wrong about something, but you were actually right.
So, but no, I would say with this Pope, probably not. But maybe with the next Pope or another future Pope. But in the meantime, I would say make the argument with your pastor and or with your bishop and say, hey, have you seen these studies? Have you seen these reports about male altar servers and female altar servers and this and that? And go from there and hit your knees at night and say, God, help me with this particular argument, and go from there.
Back to the great state of Texas we go, San Antonio, Texas, where Sandra's listening on Guadalupe Radio, FM 89.7. Sandra, thanks for holding on. You're on with John Martignoni.
Hello. How are you all today?
Doing well, Sandra. How about yourself?
I am blessed, thanks to God. I was calling to find out who can officially do the reading of the gospel during Mass, and is there any special occasions when somebody else can read the gospel at Mass, and if there is anybody who can give permission to make an exception?
Okay, the ordinary minister for reading the gospel is either the deacon or the priest. And obviously a bishop, an ordained person can read the gospel. I hold a minor office in the church. I've been installed in the past as a reader or lector, and not just the regular lectors that in the church they come and, hey, this is what you need to do, and show up on Sunday, you can read. No, I hold an actual minor office that I was installed in. I have the right to read the first or second reading at the gospel at any Mass. So if there's a lector scheduled and I show up, I can bump them. Now I wouldn't do that, and they probably wouldn't understand if I did that, might get upset. But it's my right, in essence, to do that from the liturgical standpoint. So the right for reading the gospel is to the deacon. If there's no deacon, then the priest, and obviously a bishop could if a bishop was saying Mass by himself. There is an exception that is made, that is allowed on Palm Sunday, the real long reading?
The Passion.
The reading of the Passion on Palm Sunday, where you need, at least one other person reading. You don't absolutely need it, but most places have at least one other person, and I believe the church has made an exception in that instance. But
to a degree, the words of Christ still have to be read.
The priest is still reading the words of Christ in that instance. But other than that, you should never have a lay person, even if it's, say, a religious sister or a religious brother. If they're not ordained, they should not be reading the gospel. Okay?
No bishop or archbishop can give permission to do otherwise?
No, I don't believe they can. This is something that is a rule of the church, and I don't believe, I could be wrong. Liturgy is not my number one area of study, but I believe that this is worldwide, that only an ordained person can read the gospel. I don't believe a bishop, archbishop, can make that exception. Obviously, the Pope, the ultimate legislator of the church, could probably make that exception, but I don't believe a bishop or archbishop can. And if someone knows otherwise, call in and let us know.
And it should be reiterated that all these things you're speaking of are hold true during the context of a Mass, because we've had this question before, and as it's been fleshed out, it's turned out to be either a Bible study or a communion service where different norms are in place.
Yes, and there's, if you're in a Bible study or something, and someone can, you don't have anybody, priest or deacon involved, and you want to stand up and read, okay, this is the gospel passage we're studying, and you read the gospel to a large group. Well, again, that's not during Mass, and so that's perfectly acceptable. But during the Mass, it's deacon, priest, or bishop. An ordained person is the ordinary minister for reading the gospel.
Next up is David in Sharon Springs, New York, listening on the Station of the Cross, AM 1460. David, you're on with John Martignoni.
Thank you for taking my call. A question, if I may, regarding the readings from this past weekend, specifically 1 Corinthians and Paul's great essay and writings and reflection on love. My wife and I were talking about it afterwards, and we found ourselves stumped from one particular passage, and that was the passage that reads, and I'm paraphrasing, love bears all, believes in all, hopes in all, and endures all. Bears all and endures all makes sense from, love's perfection. But believes in all and hopes in all, we found ourselves stumped because I'm sure the sentiment of thought was not believes in everything we hear because there are so many fallacies, so many wrongs that are there. What would be a proper interpretation or your take in that line, John?
I would say if you put in the word truth there, believes all things true, hopes for all things true. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. It simplifies it beautifully and does make sense. Like I said, with the confusion that we face every day and all that's presented to us. But that simple addition does certainly make an awful lot of sense. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Yeah, because there's no way Paul would be saying, we believe all, so we believe Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam. We believe atheism. You can't all at the same. It's contradictory. So God cannot contradict himself. He's not a God of contradiction. So it has to be all things that are true or the truth in there.
Next up is Samantha. Thanks again, David, for the phone call. Next up is Samantha in Fresno, California. She's listening online. Samantha, what's your question today for John?
Hi. My husband considers himself agnostic, and right now he's trying to do some research to really figure out what he believes and why. And I was wondering what you would recommend for him to read to support the existence of God.
Okay. To support the existence, is your husband a more of a mind, intellect, like, hey, give me a book that I can dive into and let me do research? Or is he more of a touchy-feely relationship type person?
Logic. Like right now he's reading, actually the opposite. He's reading The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins.
Okay.
And so.
Okay. Then a couple things. Number one, there's a book by C.S. Lewis called Mere Christianity. Very good book. Very, very good book. Number two, since he's reading Dawkins, I would suggest there's a book by Scott Hahn and Benjamin Weicker, W-I-K-E-R, called Answering the New Atheist.
Like a counter argument to his book?
Yes,
or?
And it's basically aimed at Dawkins, Stephen Hawking, and a few of the other, new radical new atheism that not only are Christians delusional, but they're dangerous, they're wrong, they're idiots, they're stupid. It's a hostile atheism. And so that's what they're answering in that book. So get those two books and let him have at those. And if he likes those and wants more, then either call back at a future date, or if you want to, go to my website. It's BibleChristianSociety.com. BibleChristianSociety.com. And there's a contact us page in there. Just shoot me a question or just say, and pick any of the categories. It doesn't matter because it's got, about speakers or whatever in there. But just shoot me an email. Say, hey, I was on Open Line and looking for books on, atheism to help my husband. Do you have any other suggestions? And I can get you some that way as well. Okay?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Samantha. Appreciate the phone call. 1-800-585-9396. Still time for your phone calls. Next up is Daniel in Warrenton, Virginia, listening on Guadalupe Radio, AM 1160. Daniel, you're on with John Martignoni.
Hey, good afternoon, fellas. How are you guys doing?
We're doing all right. How about yourself, Daniel?
I feel blessed. Thank you guys for taking my call. I'm a frequent listener of you two and have learned a lot from you two. So it's a blessing to be on the air with both of you.
Well, thank you.
I would like to tell you that I'm a returning Catholic. I was raised in the church and was a quote-unquote Catholic growing up, but never really wrapped around the faith like I want to or like I'm attempted to do so now. My question to you is I've recently moved to a different location in the same state, Virginia, and the parish that I'm attending now, they practice the communion a little bit different than they did at my previous parish. And I've asked other people this. I've asked a couple of fathers the same question, and I really wasn't satisfied with the answer that I was given. But at the new parish, they only let the congregation participate in the breaking of the communion bread. We don't participate in the cup or the blood of Christ. And I've gotten different answers from people, but I've honestly, when I leave, I feel a little bit empty. I feel like I missed out on something. And, as Catholics, we are really big on tradition, on saying the word tradition, but we're really inconsistent a lot of times on the way we all participate in different things. But anyways, when I have a doubt, I like to go to the scriptures, and if we are going to follow the way of Christ, during the Last Supper, they all participated in the breaking of the bread. He said, he broke the bread and he said, this is my body, and he raised the cup and said, this is my blood. He did them both, and they all participated in them. But anyways, I'm going to listen to your answer, but I would also like to ask a secondary question as to if that's the case, that you receive both by participating in this one, would a mass be valid if the father just did one of them?
Okay. Here's the deal. When you receive communion, when you receive the host, you are receiving the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. When you receive from the cup, what looks like wine, but is the blood of Christ. We call it the blood of Christ, but it is actually the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. Both are fully God, fully Jesus. Body, blood, soul, and divinity. That's why you can receive just the host, and you have validly received, and you have completely received Jesus Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity. There are some people who have wheat allergies, and they are given permission to just receive from the cup. They receive fully, just taking from the cup, the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. Yes, at the Last Supper, he said, this is my body, eat, this is my blood, drink. And for many years, it was done that way. But then the church had its reasons. I think their abuses were creeping in, or I don't know exactly what. I haven't done a research on it. But the church decided in the Middle Ages that, hey, no, let's just do it under the one species. So for hundreds of years, it was only the one species, the host. So you have both traditions. You have a tradition dating way back of receiving under both species. You have a tradition that was several hundred years old that receiving under just the one species. So right now what the church says is you can leave it up to the individual pastor at the church or to the individual bishop to decide for his diocese how it's going to be done. Most bishops just leave it up to their individual priests. There are reasons that a priest may do that. Number one, he prefers the tradition of receiving under only one species. I'm like you. I prefer receiving under both species. But if I go to a parish where it's just one, well, I understand. Sometimes it's a personnel issue. Well, we don't have enough people who volunteered to be extraordinary ministers of communion. So that's one of the reasons. Or again, it's the priest's preference to just have the congregation receive under the one species. But either way, when you receive either the cup or receive just the host or just the cup, you are receiving completely Jesus Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity in every drop of the blood, in every crumb of the host. It is fully God. So, yes, it is valid, and you have received God completely when you just receive communion. I would say if you're not happy with it there, you are free to find if there is another parish in the same town. Go and check it out. It might be a little bit longer drive. I mean, my family, we pass 3 or 4 parishes to go to the church we go to now. So might be a little longer drive, a little more inconvenient, but if that aspect of the Mass is that important to you, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be, I understand fully, then you might want to think about, well, maybe I need to find another parish where I can drive a little bit, even though it's a little bit longer drive.
And to the second part of his question, the priest does need to have both elements, the bread and the wine. And it should be noted that when Jesus said those words, which are said at Mass everywhere today, he was talking to a group of priests.
Yes, he was.
And
so
that group still follows that practice at every
Mass.
Right,
yes. The priest absolutely has to receive under both species, without a doubt.
Quickly, we'll go to Carolina in California, listening on EWTN.com. Carolina, you're on with John Martignoni.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. Love your show. Listen to EWTN online every day during work. My question is about the Gospel of today in Mark. I've always had that question. This is the part where there's a man that was possessed by a demon, a legion of demons, and the demons, when he gets close, they beg him not to get him, not only out of the man, but out of the region, out of the area. And I don't want to say that he listens to them, but he actually does what they ask. And instead of sending them out of the area, the city, and to hell where they belong, he sends them to just like 100 pigs. So that was always very confusing to me. Why would demons that do not belong here or anywhere close to us, why would he allow them to do that?
Well, it sends them into the pigs, or allows them to enter into the pigs. I can't speak for Jesus, but it would seem that, okay, pigs don't have souls that need saving. I mean, they have souls, but not eternal, immortal souls that need baptism and so forth and so on, and would spend eternity in heaven. So that's one thing. Number two, Jesus knew exactly what would happen once they went into the pigs, which is the pigs ran off a cliff and they all died, which meant the demons were once again homeless, and so having nowhere to go, they will probably end up in hell regardless. So Jesus wasn't really being nice to the demons. He was just getting them out of the guy. And it's kind of like, hey, be careful of what you wish for, because you just might get it.
Where can we find more of what you do?
BibleChristianSociety.com, and it's all free. BibleChristianSociety.com.
On behalf of our host, John Martignoni, our producer, Elena Rodriguez, call screener Matt Kubinski, I'm Jack Williams, thanking you once again.